Welcome to Fungi Frontiers, the official podcast of the Maine Fungi Fest, where we'll celebrate all things fungi, plant-based healing, and evolving consciousness. I'm your happy to be here host, Bobby Paluzzi. Thank you very much for joining the Fungi Frontier. Today we have Eric Milligan. Who's he? Where's he from? We're about to find out. He's got a mushroom story and an entrepreneurial mushroom story.
So I had worked at a marina for like 7 years, thinking, boy, I could maybe do mushrooms myself one day. And started discovering things in this, in the woods, and you buy a book, and then you buy all the books, and then you spend 7 days a week out in the woods discovering species. I mean, they were dollar bills laying all over the ground.
Do say.
So, named Eric Milligan. I'm the owner of New Hampshire Mushroom Company, and we are in Tamworth, New Hampshire.
Okay, I'm already fascinated, but maybe not everyone is. So please tell me how your journey to the mushroom world, let's just put it that way for now, began. How did you get this way?
Interesting question. It's kind of changed over the years. Grew up doing lots of different things. I had studied theater in college. Mm-hmm. It was a little bit one-dimensional. I wanted to travel a lot, and after traveling, and I guess it must be, 25 years ago now, I had gone to a mushroom farm just to visit real quick, and I'd worked there, and I was just interested and curious about everything, and I wanted to do everything, and I could never make up my mind about what I should be doing. And I've got one of those brains that really kind of gravitates towards art and science. And so anytime that those two sort of blend really well, I find my hyper focus really able to dive in deep. Mm-hmm, and with discovering, with the cultivating side of mushrooms first, realizing very quickly by getting out into the woods, the overlap between the two, and found it absolutely fascinating. On one of the trips back from Europe, I worked for a construction company, and they would send me around the country to I was an admin, and I would help finish a job that was never finished. They had purchased jobs from Enron and Black Hills, and they were litigation jobs, big factory things. And I can't weld at all, but I can hold a clipboard and point my finger very well. And so
do you
every
still
few
do that?
Months, yeah, no one listens anymore though.
Pull the clipboard out. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there's nothing on the clipboard. It doesn't even need to be anything on there. I think there's a to-do list on there, and it says there's only one thing on it. It says make one.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna let you continue, and then you're gonna reach that point where you and the mushroom world kind of coincide, and then now
it's kind of weird. It just kind of all blends in because it
sounds good.
When those projects would end, I would lay myself off, and I would go to Europe for 4 or 5 months, and I would come back and do it again, and that kind of petered out, and I found myself in New Hampshire visiting some family, and saw a farm, and went there to visit just to show up, and showed up with work boots on and worked 9 months. And unfortunately, that farm had some issues. And so I worked in the town that I was in. I had broken my leg, and I was rehabbing it, which put me in the woods.
So you were 9 months, 9 months working at a...
I worked 9 months, learned, we grew king oysters and lion's mane and blue oysters. And chestnuts. So I had worked at a marina for like 7 years, thinking, boy, I could maybe do mushrooms myself one day. And started discovering things in this, in the woods, and you buy a book, and then you buy all the books, and then you spend 7 days a week out in the woods discovering species. I mean, they were dollar bills laying all over the ground. And so I was picking those up, and then spent about 6 or 7 years writing a business plan, and then jumped off the cliff one day, and here it is 13 years later.
Who buys them?
Now or when we started?
Well, when you said there were dollar bills on the ground, I'm like, who were you thinking right then?
At that point right there, we got a lot of really, really good chefs here in New Hampshire that really know their mushrooms. And so I was selling wild mushrooms to different restaurants and things like that. When we
okay.
now I sell mushrooms to anybody, wild mushrooms that anybody wants.
Can you give like the average person out there listening, if there if there is such a thing, can we give them like a daily awareness regimen like of mushrooms? What would a ideal day for you be like uh integrating mushrooms into your life?
Well, I really think when speaking about mushrooms on with people into their daily lives, I think I comment a lot with people here in New England, and especially with medicinal mushrooms, I'll refer to them more as supplements than I will as medicinal mushrooms very often, mostly because of here in Western civilization how we're raised to believe of what medicine is.
Mm-hmm.
I think we find a lot with medicine being like, "Oh, well, I've got a broken arm and you fixed it. Thank you for being a human mechanic."
Mm-hmm.
Where I refer to them as supplements because it's more with Eastern medicine about giving the body what it's need to heal and healing. And
Healing,
so,
healing.
yeah, healing the body. I mean, we haven't really evolved yet to survive only on corn syrup. And
So,
so,
ah,
co-adaptogenic evolution. There are a lot of things that we're missing in our own diets that our body needs to be able to do what it was engineered to do, which is repair itself. And I think here in New England, a lot of the benefit people receive is from the vitamin D.
mhm.
About
Okay.
95% of people have vitamin D. So I think that by integrating mushrooms into a daily life, I mean, for say our products, we have a lot of folks that do in the morning the all in one that we have, which has 7 different species of mushrooms in it. In starting their day off with that, I would say,
With
like,
some coffee or something.
a lot of people are like our energy and focus blend, our lion's mane and cordyceps blend. For people to get their day going, especially, have it with your coffee or things where,
So, in a
uh,
more general way,
yeah.
let's step back for a second and say there you are in the field looking at the dollar bills, but you know there's more to it. Because now, as you just mentioned, there's a healing aspect. And that's even further beyond than cooking in a way. And I don't know many substances that are like that actually, um, that are taken as a food chef gourmet thing and then also taken as a healing health benefit. I'm not sure of many substances like that, or I'm
Well,
missing it.
when I speak about it, I might sound confusing because in my mind, it's all integral together all at once.
So that's the step back. That's
I came into fungi with a fascination of something that I didn't know anything about.
mhm.
And the fact that myself and everyone around us really should have been learning about mycelium and fungi when we were learning, what dirt was and that those are clouds in the sky. Listen, if my entire goal in life was financially based, and especially with mushrooms, then I would have failed a long time ago. My fascination with this is not monetary. I mean, I'm blessed to be able to speak to thousands of people every year and be their first introduction to fungi. And because I'm the first introduction, I get to talk about all the juicy, interesting things. And I'm not a scientist at all. I'm an observationist, and one of it's not just about cultivating mushrooms and wild mushrooms and mushrooms as supplements, or mycelium looking like the internet and the brain and the universe and all of that. It's all of that together at
Are
once.
those the juicy bits you're talking about?
Well, I mean, the first thing is be like, well, mushrooms are closer to animals, and everyone kind of looks at you weird.
Hmm.
Or, don't worry about touching a deadly toxic mushroom. You have to eat it before you'll get sick.
Mm.
And it's these preconceived ideas of things that we assume that we know by things that we've heard or were told to us, which were completely wrong.
Yes, I'm also starting.
I
Right.
sometimes say in my lectures, I'm like, listen, I'm over 45 years old. Everything I was ever taught was wrong. So lots of people like, you got to pick the right mushroom. You don't know. I'm like, listen, there are so many more deadly toxic plants and trees. Why being afraid of this? I mean, we're raised to be afraid of all of these things. I'm in New Hampshire. There's no cannabis policy here, but I got the farm hemp certified. I grow
Wow.
giant flowering cannabis plants on the apron of the farm as a conversation starter because people are afraid to be, they're raised to be afraid of a plant. And then they see it and they're like, you can't grow that here. And I'm say it's hemp.
So very
And it
much,
gets it going.
Very much the main Fungi Fest and a podcast like this, what we're trying to do is bridge the gap between what sounds like an integrated lifestyle of with mushrooms and the people that may be on the other side of that. And then we all talk, and then we all grow. And the way you're speaking of mushrooms sounds to me like some of the other interviews I've had with people that are very day to day with it, and they seem to agree with some kind of almost like it's an evolutionary aid on its highest on a higher level, the mushroom, and it's a guide to a certain extent. And this is, I guess, part of what they're calling the psychedelic renaissance. If you want to, and if you have any experience along those lines, you could relate that to us now, and
Yeah,
let
yeah,
give us your
absolutely.
perspective.
So, in regards to, of course, you start, a foray, and it's funny that you say bridging the gap. That's actually the title of a lecture that I'm working on. I was blessed this year
Touche.
be to be faculty at NEMF, New England Mycological Foundation's annual foray in Hyannis this year.
Oh,
And it was my very first foray that I'd ever gone to. I got to meet Sam Ristich and talk to all of these people that literally wrote the books that I had been reading and diving into. And I had learned from the cultivating side of mushrooms.
hmm
And so my entire career, I guess it's got to be like 20 years now studying this, it's always been there would seem to be this dichotomy between the world of specialty cultivation and making money as a business and the academia side.
ah,
And I have always tried to live in that balance between. And there used to be like this really white and black, this really strict line in between the two, and almost a resentment between. But
mm,
it's blurring now. It's it kind of coming together. So I'm working on a lecture now. I'm putting kind of the bullet points together of it's called bridging the gap of how one begets the other. Being a mushroom cultivator helped me a lot being a forager, and then also being a forager helped me very much being a cultivator. So, and that also ties into so this psychedelic renaissance.
hmm
I often tell people that not all of this is it's new to them. However, the research and the benefits of things aren't new to people that got into it down and dirty 25 years
yes,
ago and kind of ran their elbows. And I guess
it,
maybe 3 years ago, because 13 years ago I started the farm. The first question that you get, hey, you got some magic mushrooms? Well, no, I don't. I don't have
right.
them. I don't grow them. No, I can't find them for you. And I was kind of mum on it, because I just didn't want that attention. I really wanted attention on. It was like a year getting someone to eat a lion's mane.
Well,
You know,
this this is this is
these
this
are
is bridging
new
the
things
gap.
that they had never had any
Uh-huh.
interaction, like maybe shiitakes. And so I guess it's maybe 3 or 4 years ago I realized that that I was probably going to do better, and people were going to be a lot more comfortable or more conscientious if you just answered questions matter of fact and answered questions for
Yes.
people.
Yes.
And I found that the misinformation that people had in regards to mushrooms as a psychotropic, they just needed to know some information. They were kind of into it, like, don't they grow here and this and that. Well, no, I'm trying to word it right. I just give people not just matter of fact information and be able to answer their questions, and
So,
and and try to get them to like not be afraid of something. I guess having the moniker of magic mushrooms, people think, oh, these things are magic.
magic, magic. Yes, indeed. Aren't we about magic these days? We'll take a little break from our discussion with Eric Milligan and his story. Thanks again for joining us for this episode of Fungi Frontiers. Our sponsors are Moving On Productions and the Main Consciousness Healing and Living Medicine Project. We're all here to encourage listeners to join us at our 2025 event. Guess what? May 30th through Sunday, June 1st. St. Joseph's College in Maine, on the shores of Sebago Lake. You can go to the website. You can find mainefungifest.org.com.u. Go there. Here comes Fungi Frontiers, the second half of our interview with Eric Milligan from the New Hampshire Mushroom Company.
And I matter-of-factly will say, well, they're not magic. It's not some magic poison you're receiving. And I said, I treat them and answer and talk about them as if any other mushroom supplement. They work for some people some of the time. They're a tool. It's a hammer.
It's where we are. Our phraseology, the way we like to label things. It's where we are.
Exactly.
So people will say magic mushroom. This is bridging the gap. These stigmas, if they are, or at least stereotypes, being sort of a little washed into the blur, and now we're starting to actually get something out of the lion's mane. So now it's not off-putting to agree to mushrooms. I'd say in Europe and other countries, they've been much more used to mushrooms as an integration into their lives for food. And in the United States, for whatever reason, there was a lot of canned mushrooms going on. And it took, I think, probably the pizza to kind of make fresh mushrooms reality. You tell me. You're the chef. You're the guy who knows about that side of it.
Look at history, because you said European and they're more integrated mushrooms in their lives. Yeah. So I get lots of people that come through say, listen, when I was a kid, I went out and foraged with my grandmother, my great aunt, my uncle.
Right.
They knew some mushrooms, they picked them, they brought them home, but they didn't teach my parents, and my parents didn't teach me. So I went back and looked at all of these dates of like when was the date on the calendar? And it comes to find out, they're from Poland, or they're from Germany, or they're from Eastern Europe, and they lived in Eastern Europe in the early 40s.
Yes.
Now, they had always integrated mushrooms in their diet. They've been doing it for millennia, but there was food shortages, there was war. And so they were really getting into having mushrooms as a food, as a staple to survive. And then they immigrated after the war to the United States, and a lot of the mushrooms are the same, but a lot are different. That information didn't pass on, a little bit here or there, where like, oh, we got morels, and I know chanterelles, or I know the black trumpet because there isn't a lookalike. But a lot of the other stuff's like, geez, we could eat that at home and here it gets us sick. So I think there was a lack of like handing that information down.
Yes, it's not a cultural. It's not a cultural reality. And I wonder though, in New England, if it shifted at some point, because mushrooms are kind of an odd thing to package and sell. I think at one time in colonial America, they were probably much more harvested and eaten by people, for the longest time. And then at some point it shifted, and America just didn't have it with the mushrooms. But now, here we go. So I did ask about psychedelic mushrooms. I'm not sure if you have a story to tell about anything in your life. Do you?
In regards to whether or not they've helped me personally or not helped me personally?
An experience, a relation, something you could tell to, say, if someone's listening right now, they would say, "Oh yeah, I get it," and maybe your first perceptions, if it helped you, whatever. Yeah.
Well, let me see. First experience with psychedelic mushrooms was probably 1997. I went the old PF Tech in a closet in college.
Wow.
Ordered spores off from the back of an article in the High Times, and grew a couple and ate a couple of handfuls, and of course had that first mushroom transcendental, I'm one with the universe sort of religious experience.
Wow.
And thought that, well, that's kind of interesting. We're all one in this frequencies and all these sort of things, and I'm
The
probably
oneness.
just made up of gravity and light and just kind of riding this sort of train. Since then, it's kind of evolved because I don't grow them and I don't have them or things, but it's not like they're readily inaccessible. And so I guess for the last 20 years or so, a lot of bioassaying of different genetics. Because I hate to see the psychotropic mushroom field go into the avenue of cannabis, where just making the strongest THC and getting rid of all the cannabinoids. And so I'd really like to see with entourage effect. I mean, I do a bunch of consulting, and you got a company that maybe has a candy bar and it's got 3.5 grams of PE in it.
Yeah.
Well,
where
wow,
that's great.
Are you gonna eat 3.5 grams of PE and go to a concert? I mean, you're under the stage wondering why your dog won't text you back. So I think, and one of the things I have, and maybe it's just me being a cultivator for a while, is that It's not really a resentment or annoyance that I think that any time that, and it happens with oysters or lion's mane or any of those things too, that when you try to manipulate or change the wheel in regards to what mushrooms want, they'll teach you a lesson.
Wow.
Whether you're cultivating them, foraging for them, or ingesting them as a psychotropic medicine,
So we have
they'll
we
teach
have
you
a
a lesson.
there's a consciousness to it, and that's what I keep um, people keep telling me. There's a consciousness of the mushroom itself.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
as there is many things, and so, but to recognize that is a vital thing, I think, as we move forward in this psychedelic renaissance, and also as we look at it as a food, and as we look at it as a medicine. And yeah, I wanted just to catch your little story there of the moment that you first became aware. But right now, why don't you explain yourself a little more? You have this wonderful company, and tell us all about the public reaction to it and the people that come in and buy your mushrooms, what they do with them.
Yeah. So what's amazing is that what I wanted to start doing at the farm 13 years ago is really not what I'm doing now. What I'm doing now actually is what I wanted to do, but the facility to do so didn't exist. I was just cultivating fresh mushrooms in the beginning, wanted to take over the world with specialty mushrooms. I want no part of that now. I would rather have there be a million mushroom growers feeding their
Okay.
community,
Mm,
going open
wow.
source 13 years ago and sharing information.
This
Come
isn't
on in,
capitalism.
I'll show you how to do this. Well, this year we're blending in, say, profitability through collaboration. There are several companies that base their operations out of my facility.
Okay. Yeah, that's right.
I leased two of my grow rooms to my direct competition. And but
Very
because
clever.
it didn't really exist much. I mean, there was a specialty industry, but you couldn't just go and follow A through B. You couldn't go online and watch a video or a podcast or a million different things online to figure out how people were cultivating mushrooms. You could watch a video of like Korean and Chinese bottling lines. And so now, after 12 years, it doesn't have to be just fresh cultivated mushrooms or just wild mushrooms,
Mm,
which I haven't even been able to sell legally until like 2 years ago. But
wow.
anyway, I won't get into like the bill on that stuff. But the so this facility now isn't just a place to buy fresh mushrooms. It really is an agritourism destination spot
Oh,
where,
wow. You do give
yeah,
tours, right? You
yeah,
give
I had
tours.
about 50, yeah, because so I cultivate the fresh mushrooms and things like that, but I don't need to do 100 hours of labor a week producing those. I mean, by working with Maine Cap and Stem, where they produce the blocks, where I can just go pick them up. Same genetics, same material, even from the same places I would get it, but it eliminates all that worry of contamination. I mean, it's a hard thing to do. It's easy to cultivate mushrooms. It's hard to do it consistently.
You sound
And
like
so
a Johnny Appleseed type. Like you're really more interested in spreading the word.
I,
This
I
is
eat
the
I
big thing.
feed off from failure. I just keep trying to do better at it.
Okay. Well,
The and so because I like to speak about mushrooms, I mean, I had like maybe 52 speaking engagements last season.
wow.
And so I get hired out, and then we do lots of different things here, bringing people out in the woods. And it's really interesting to see how the age range is getting less and less and less on the average age of people that get really into it. And
Wonderful.
so, really having people being able to come here, and it's thousands of people literally. And so, it doesn't have to be just one focus anymore.
Yes.
It's
Okay.
we're focusing on the foraging, we're bringing in the cultivation side, we're bringing in the medicinal side, the art side, the psychotropic side, to kind of, I don't want to say lift the veil or tear back the curtain. Don't look behind the, no, we're here behind the curtain, come on over, we'll show you.
And what kind of
um,
feedback are you getting? What kind of feedback are you getting from the people that come in and come through and talk to you?
um, it's absolutely amazing. You will have people that are very inclined to think certain things and their mind is blown. I had no idea any of this existed. Especially when you tie like what mycelium looks like underground to like the internet,
Hmm. There you go.
and how information, it's kind of like, well, isn't it cool with quantum computing? I said, computers are almost caught up to what, mushrooms have been doing for hundreds of millions of years. What's really cool, I've often gone back maybe a couple of times a year and I'll read the original business plan from like 13 years ago. And to see some things that I thought would occur and other things that I'm like, boy, it'd be really awesome if this was to, come to fruition in regards to mushrooms. And it's kind of neat to see how many things were. And believe it or not, based on my expectations, the cultural acceptance of psychotropics is actually 2 to 3 years further ahead than I thought it would be.
Okay, here's the last thing we need. We need this from you. We need your vision for what's going to go down at the Maine Fungi Fest 2025 at Sebago Lake, May 30th, June 1st.
I think that a lot of people go to that with the idea that they to keep an open eye, keep their eyes open, listen and learn, and be receptive to the educations being provided by so many different people that have been willing to talk about these things or to educate about these and to give their opinions and observations and things just in a matter of fact sort of way, so that this shroud of mysticism or magic or things kind of go away and just look at things very practical.
I've had a great time having this little bit of a podcast. Every one of them seems too short, but thank you very much, Eric.
Yeah, apologize if I went rambling at all. I do that often.
That's okay, I edit.
Oh, you do? Excellent. Great. nhmushrooms.com. You can go there, order online. You can look for our classes and our events. It's updated frequently. And
did you say NH? Just NH? No dots, nothing, just N?
nhmushrooms.com.
I just loved it. I love the honest, that sort of like mountain spring water, granite rock appeal of the New Hampshire mixed with mushrooms, which is going through this renaissance. So I'm really happy to have been able to speak with you. And Excellent. We will hopefully get back. Maybe we'll do a part 2 or something. I'd love to come up. I'd actually love to come up sometime because Tina from Clearly Balanced Days has
I just met her a couple weeks ago.
Linked with you, and that's how I found out about the New Hampshire Mushroom Company. So here we go.
Excellent.
And there you have it. A wonderful discussion, very worthy of a listen, and another episode down on our fungi frontier as we make our way month to month, episode to episode, towards our May 30th and June 1st fest. Stay connected, folks, as we further our fungi frontiers. Let's check it out. The sponsors: Norumbega Provisions, LLC, North Spore, Healer, Sanctuary, Float Harder, Elevate Mushrooms, the People's Congregation of Shakers and Movers, Apotheosis Fungi, Leaf Filter Gutter Protection, Root Healing Iboga Retreats, could be Iboga, Southwest Shroomery, Veterans Psychedelic Network, MN Botanicals, and Creative Oxford Hills. That's an impressive list of names. Let's continue impressing the world. Why don't you do it one step at a time? We'll do it one episode at a time. Stay connected as we further our fungi frontiers.